Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Dallas Cohen, and you are watching an episode of, or listening to, an episode of the Rebound Coach Live. And we have some pretty serious things to talk about tonight. I'm so glad you're here again. If this is our first time sharing virtual space, if you've never been on a live with me here on Facebook or listened in on Clubhouse, I'm so glad you hopped in today. I'm so glad you decided to spend your virtual space with me. Just a little bit about myself, if we're just getting to know each other. I am a life coach, and I have the honor of serving high achieving women of faith who've lived through betrayal, trauma, or abuse and want to reclaim territory in the relationship with themselves. And I had that opportunity to do that because of my own story. Long story really short, I was married 10 years to a man who wanted me dead and almost had his chance to try it. By the end of things, he and his mistress were plotting my murder and had been doing so for months by the time I found out. And as much as that sounds like a movie plot, it's not. It's something that actually happened to me in real life. And, it didn't make sense for someone like me to have that situation. I was raised by two uh, parents that loved God, they loved each other, they were married for a lifetime. So I didn't have an example of a quote unquote broken home. At the same time, I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. What we know about that is that it radically affects how you see yourself. I was in a household of faith, so how I related to God and how I related to men. Fast forward a few years, when I met the man that I did marry and later divorce, there were definitely red flags. There were reasons why we shouldn't be together. There were concerns, and I was not blind to them. By the same token, as a woman of faith, I would pray about it, and I believed that um, God's answer was yes. And because of that, I believe that whatever would happen, we'd be able to overcome it. Y'all, a sneeze is coming. So I'm staying trigger ready on the mute button so y'all don't have to hear me sneeze. but I just believe that we would be able to overcome whatever challenges came. We would outlast it, we'd overcome it. And y'all, trouble came like right away. It was not like a honeymoon period and then some struggle. No, right away, full blast. And never quite left. What I call it is a cycle of coping in crisis. So we had learned to cope. We weren't really thriving, but we knew how to do the dance and make sure everybody survived the day pretty much. There were seasons where I would just cry myself to sleep at night and get up in the morning. I'd go to work, come home, we'd argue, he'd leave the house, and I'd cry myself to sleep again. And that was a cycle for a long time. And there was depression and suicidal thoughts and hopelessness, just utter hopelessness. And like I said, like I led with earlier, we'd get into some horrible crisis where everything would blow up, and then we'd get back to this coping dance. Never healed, never thriving, never better, just back to coping. And that went on for some years until the final crisis was he left for another woman. He was a serial adulterer. So those who know, right? So there's people listening right now. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I would never, and all of that. And there's people who have lived something similar. So if you know. I was with a serial adulterer. And this particular time, he chose to leave to be with the woman his top side chick at the moment. And I found out a day or so later, he and that woman had been plotting my murder. And that's the kind of moment in your life where you just like stop. You just stop, come to a halt, everything, record scratch. Oh my gosh. And you have to make a decision. And everything was threatened, who I was as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, as a child of God, and as a coach. Y'all, I had been coaching for like 5 or 6 years by then, and I was coaching faith-based marriages, helping troubled marriages make it. So, in my mind, I didn't have an abusive marriage. I had a hard marriage, and I was going to help other people in hard marriages. And God blessed it, and people got help, and people learned how to withstand some things they believed they were supposed to withstand, just like I believed I was supposed to withstand, right? So I had already done that for 5 or 6 years, and I was really adamant. Like, it wasn't just like a shtick for me. It wasn't just like a platform. Like, I really 10,000% believed this is the way every married person is supposed to be. And that was really threatened when the person I was married to not only was gone with this other person, but was now a very, very clear danger to me. Hey, Monique, it's so good to see you here. Thank you for coming on and sharing this space with me. I really appreciate it. And yes, it is a very important topic today. And so through a divine set of events, y'all, God has blessed me. I am alive. My children and I are safe, and we're continuing to heal and grow and thrive and become. And I have the distinct honor of helping other people thrive, heal, grow, and become. And I wrote a book. It's actually my second book out of that whole situation. It's called I Choose Life because I literally could allow the identity that my ex-husband had planned for me, and quite frankly, that I had agreed to. We make monsters out of abusers, but I believe as adults, not as children, but as adults, there's a part that we play in the dynamic, not blaming anybody for anybody else's decisions, right? So I didn't cause any of my ex-husband's decisions, but I caused mine. I caused my response or lack of response, right? So I could allow the identity that he had planned for me to tell me who I was allowed to become, how I was allowed to express my faith, how many days I had left on the planet, y'all. It was crazy. It was crazy. Or I could choose life. So the name of the book is I Choose Life. Rewrite your love story and change your legacy. And we're talking about not just your romantic love story, but how you learned to love and how you learned to be loved. That is something we learn way before we are of age to be in a romantic relationship. But whatever those patterns were is what plays out for us, not just in romantic relationships, but in all of our relationships, all of them. So it's very important to know how you learned to love, how you learned to be loved. And if you don't like those results, what to do about it. Those answers are here. You can get your copy of that book at thereboundcoach.com/book. That is thereboundcoach.com/book. You can get the book. You can get one of these physical copies that I will personally sign and mail to you, or you can get one from Amazon and somebody else will mail it to you. So either way, I just wanted to make sure I shared that with you. And so tonight's topic is pretty serious, actually. It's a pretty serious topic. And so if you've experienced any kind of sexual abuse or other kinds of abuse, just trigger warnings. I don't intend to go, super, super graphic. I don't intend to do that, but it is a sensitive topic. So I wanted to trigger warning anyone when we talk about this. So tonight's talk, good touch, bad touch for grownups. So when we're kids, oh, by the way, we are simulcast on Clubhouse. I did not put that on I didn't put it on the invite on Facebook, but we are simulcast on Clubhouse. If you use the Clubhouse app, you can search up Sanctuary, and it's called it's Sanctuary XP, and then Master Key Mindset is spelled backwards because I didn't create it. Anyway, Sanctuary XP Club on Clubhouse, and the name of that room is the same as the name of this live here, Good Touch, Bad Touch for Grownups. Okay, so I just wanted to say that because normally after our time here on Facebook, we chop it up over on Clubhouse. So if you want to join an audio discussion, that's how you do it. Okay, guys. Okay. If you're in a generation like mine or older, we did the good touch, bad touch talk. Now, it's a little differently phrased today. But for when we're growing up, stranger danger, that was a thing. Stranger danger. So parents trying to keep their kids safe in the best way they knew how would talk about stranger danger, and don't let a van ride up with some weird old dude popping out offering you candy, right? So they talked about that. They talked about good touch, bad touch. And so of course we know that sexual abuse is an epidemic among children, especially among girls. I believe it is right now 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 3 girls are abused in their lifetime. In the African American community, it's 1 of 2, so it's half, and that's those who have reported. So it's very, very, very common, and parents are doing everything that they can to keep their children safe, which makes sense, right? So they're educating their children on what to accept and what not to accept, right? And this is important because kids don't know, right? They don't know what's wrong unless you tell them. They may have a feeling inside, but there's all of these authority figures around, and it's hard to know what I'm allowed to say no to, what's not okay, and what is okay, what I have agency over. Okay, do I have agency over my body? Someone else has been caring for my body since you were born. So it's a little different. It's a different conversation to have with kids. And so the people helpers of the world educate parents and do the education directly on what's a good touch, what's not a good touch. And they do their best to define things. And this is tricky because no matter how well you define it, there's going to be a situation that's a gray area. So generally the messaging for kids is if there's a parent or a doctor or someone who is helping you be clean or be healthy. So we're talking to little kids who's, somebody's still wiping their butt, right? So in those kind of conversation, all right, somebody who helps you be clean or a doctor who's trying to help you be healthy, those are safe touches. Touches that make you feel good are safe touches. And then they say, all right, well, other kinds, people that touch your private parts or people that want to take pictures of you, those are unsafe touches, right? Those are bad touches. And that's typically in the context of trying to avoid adult to child sexual abuse. Extremely, extremely, extremely important. You heard me in my story a minute ago tell you that I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. The part I don't always get into is that was not an adult. It was not an adult. Children can molest children. And it can be a little tricky if you taught your child stranger danger and what not to accept from an adult. If a child starts, it's not seen as the same thing as, it's not seen as unsafe touch or bad touch. This didn't happen from an adult, right? It happened from this other child. The feelings might be the same, but a child doesn't have language for that. So I assumed it was not abuse. It was not until I got into college, Now I got into college and I was like 17 when I started school, and I was depressed and I was suicidal at 17 years old. And I went into therapy because I was depressed and suicidal. And that's how all of this came up. And I did not think it was abuse until that point in my life. So thank you, Stacy, for that really brave declaration there from ages 6 to 9. Yeah, they're very young ages, so it makes you really tender. And you're not quite sure who you are or how to relate to other people, what your worth is for, like all of that. And I didn't realize that this was that molestation was abuse or wrong, or something somebody perpetrated against me. Did not realize that until I was 17, and the 8 years of abuse at that point has stopped, only because he moved out of the house. So it's really important to tell kids the truth, and it's important to make that distinction, even as adults. Many adults, you just heard me say it, I was a teenager, but many adults don't, they were tricked into the abuse, especially women. So I serve women, so that's the context that I speak of. I am a woman, I serve women, that's what you'll hear me talk about. But obviously men go through this too, boys go through this too. It is not a gender specific issue. All right. It was definitely confusing, Stacy. Definitely confusing. And like I said, I didn't know it wasn't my fault. I didn't know that this was abuse. I didn't know that it had affected me at all until I was 17, suicidal and depressed. Yes. So, again, they teach good touch, bad touch is good from family and friends, bad from adults. I'm reading my notes over here. That's what's over here. Or on private parts. And then there's confusing, right? So we talked about that a little bit. The difference between a good touch, a bad touch, or a confusing touch, which is what most kids are going through. They're not quite sure if this is wrong, not quite sure if this is right. My mom said something about it, but so-and-so said not to tell. When I was a kid, when I was 8, my abuser, who was only a few years older than me, says, if you tell, dad's going to kill me. Okay. So I didn't tell because I didn't want this other person to have harm come to them. And that's crazy, right? But it happens. It happens a lot. Yes, absolutely. Men definitely go through this. It's not just women. Okay. So the basic teaching, what they're teaching kids, and what they're teaching kids now too, is about consent and agency. That's the word I use with my kids. You have agency over your body. So what makes a touch good or bad can't only mean who it's coming from or immediately how somebody feels, right? So consent is a big key factor in whether or not a touch is safe. Did I give you permission to touch me? Did I give you permission? And I write about it a bit in the book. I definitely write about the whole of it in the book, because abusive marriages don't start as adults. The abusive tendencies and being okay with treated a certain way doesn't start in adulthood. I was groomed, and I'm not saying that on purpose, or I'm not saying this is anyone's fault. I'm saying that there were situations that happened in my life that predisposed me to being okay with the kind of treatment I had in my marriage. And that happens to a lot of us. So I don't start the story in my book. I don't start with, hey, I was an adult and I met this other crazy adult and these crazy things happened. Okay. I start way back in childhood. And some of these experiences I'm telling you about, I've written about in the book. And the first instance of molestation was confusing touch. It wasn't out and out good, and it wasn't out and out bad. It was confusing. I wasn't sure. There was definitely, you accessed my body and I didn't give you permission, but then I didn't revoke permission either. Right? It's kind of that fine line, and I'm not quite sure. That's kind of where it was. Well, I'm just going to sit and think about it. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to sit and think about it. And then it happened again and again and again. Okay. So the basic teaching is about consent. Kids don't know what's right unless they're told. And the same is true for adults. And you would think, well, people are mature now, but it really is the same thing. Unless somebody tells you, hey, that's abuse, you don't know it. Absolutely. We don't know what we don't know. I have these retreats that we do called Sanctuary Experience. They're 3 days, VIP, high touch. And by that, I mean high interaction events. And we've been able to serve women in their 70s. So youngest we had was a baby. Most of them are adults, but all the way to their 70s, and women who have endured just horrendous situations. And I had someone who had come to Sanctuary tell me, up until this, I didn't realize, I wouldn't say that I experienced domestic violence, but that's what it was. Imagine 70 years of your life and you have not named what happened to you. It was incredibly powerful for this person to finally realize, like, this is what it's called. This is what it's called. Domestic violence is what it's called. Sexual abuse is what it's called. It has a name. And the beauty in that is that there's so much freedom. There's so much power. Okay, so this is what you do about these things. And you don't know that until you know that. So I just encourage all of us, if you're watching this live here today, or if you're on the replay, you have children in your life, have this conversation with them. You have grownups in your life, have this conversation with them. It's really empowering. Okay, I'm trying to keep up. Trying to keep up with all of your wonderful comments. Thank you so much for interacting with me. It really makes the difference. Truly, truly. So, like we're just saying, abused women often feel confused or ashamed about their abuse. I can tell you, I was married 10 years, and I write about an episode towards the end of everything where he was having a mental episode and things were very, very bad. And, he wanted to touch me, and he wanted to keep me awake, and he wanted to keep me from leaving the house. And he was trying to hit me with something. He was trying to attack me with something. And I said, no, you can't do that. And I said, it was Holy Spirit. It wasn't me, because I didn't think like that then. But I said, this is my body, and you can't touch my body like that, or you can't hit me like that. And he paused, like he had to give thought to it. And he's like, how could you say that when your body is my body and my body's your body? Like, he's quoting scripture. Actually, he's twisting scripture. And this is common in faith-based marriages that are abusive, when there's spiritual abuse, religious abuse, emotional abuse, in addition to anything physical, verbal, sexual. There's this twist of scripture. And good girls, good godly wives want to please God. They want to obey God at the best they know how, the best they understand it. And they're taught, your body belongs to him, so you can't deny him, all of that stuff. And that gives unscrupulous men privilege to abuse. And unfortunately, many twist the scripture and abuse their wives with that. And that happened to me. So things that you may not know are abuse. So if this is a trigger warning, if your husband is forcing you to have sex, tricking you into having sex, guilting you into having sex, giving you punishments if you don't have sex with them, right? Like, if they're extra moody, they're not helpful, they're going to stop paying bills, they're not going to give you grocery money, any of those kinds of things. They're going to drive dangerously when you're in the car with them. They're going to be harsh to the kids if you don't have sex with them. That's sexual abuse that happens in marriage. Rape happens in marriage. Rape happens in Christian marriages. Rape happens with clergy husbands. And that sounds crazy, but it's not. That sounds like, how could you say that, Dallas? It happens way more than anybody will ever admit. So if there's restraining. So some people might say, well, I'm not being physically abused, he doesn't hit me. There's more than hitting that's involved in unsafe touch. If there's horseplay that you didn't ask for, like horseplay you didn't ask for, you're not that kind of gal, you don't really like that, but he doesn't stop, right? That's physical abuse and it's unsafe touch. If he's restraining you, my ex-husband used to wrestle me down and restrain me, and I'm heavy, but I'm not, he was bigger than me, he was stronger than me, and he would restrain me. That's a form of unsafe touch. That's a form of physical abuse. Blocking the door, taking your purse and your keys, taking your phone, not paying certain bills. Okay. All of those things. And we talked about marital rape and physical abuse. These are things that happen to women and they're confused about whether or not this is wrong because of what a preacher said, because of what the Bible says, because of what they understand, all of that. Those are bad touches, ladies. Those are unsafe touches. Okay. And here's another thing I want to talk about that is not often talked about in abuse conversations. So when we talk about unsafe touch or bad touch or physical abuse or sexual abuse, we're always thinking about too much touch, right? So, because that's definitely an example of bad or unsafe. Too much. I didn't want it. You did it anyway. That's too much. On the other end of the spectrum, there are wives that are neglected of touch. Touch is a love language. Okay. Most folks who are familiar with the 5 love languages understand that physical touch is one of those love languages, right? And even if that's not your quote unquote love language, everybody thrives off touch to a certain degree, to a certain extent. Everybody. There's like science to it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But the other end of that spectrum is neglect. So it's when he hasn't touched you in X number of years. And normally when there's a marriage where there's not as much sex in it as one of the spouses wants, we automatically assume, oh, that woman is frigid. Oh, she's a nag. Oh, she's let the kids become more important than her husband. Oh, she's a slob. She doesn't dress up anymore. She's not sexy for her husband. That's why he doesn't want her. No, stop. Because it's true. Like, women get blamed for all the problems in a marriage. No matter how horrible the man is, it's her fault somehow. And women are like, oh, yes, it must be my fault. Let me fix me some more. And we spend another, 2, 3, 5, 10, 25 years in abusive cycles because of it. And it's not always a woman being frigid. There are women, and look, y'all, I spend time in a lot of corners where people are getting healing. Okay. A lot of corners of the internet where abused women come to feel safe. And trust me when I tell you, it's not just me. I was one of them, but there are many, 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 many women who are longing for touch in marriages. Married women, they are pillars in their community. They are upstanding and upwardly mobile, and they are active, and they're doing all these things. And you look at them, you're like, man, they've got their stuff together, and their heart aches. It aches. I used to fantasize about being held. And I don't mean by just like a man, like anybody. Okay. It was terrible. My heart was just so dry because that's part of it. You're doing your day to day, and even if there's not abuse going on, like a normal day to day is kind of hectic in our Western culture. We've got a lot going on, no matter what your situation. So holding up a household and a family and a job and ministry and a business at the time for myself, all those things, having a really bad, abusive, toxic dynamic in your house and not having the connection to feeling loved. So there's love all around us, right? Every human thrives off feeling loved. And we all need love. Love's everywhere. God is love. God is everywhere. That's already around. The difference is feeling loved. Okay. So love can be around, but if you don't feel it, what difference does that make? Right? If it's raining cats and dogs, but you're inside, you don't feel any wetness, even though wetness is all around you. So feeling loved is the key. So knowing what that is for you, and for many of us, it is safe touch is what helps us feel loved. And not just that, guys, we thrive off it. A baby needs that skin to skin. Like, that's how they connect and nourish, and it's vital. And when you deprive a baby of it, like, developmentally things get twisted when a baby doesn't have that physical touch. I mean, what, we stop needing it because we know how to walk and pee now? Right? No, we still need it. And so I looked up some benefits of touch. Okay, so it lowers our heart rate and blood pressure. It lowers depression and anxiety. It boosts the immune system and even relieves pain. Okay, all of this from like 20-second hugs or better. Serious, it's incredible. Okay, also, it signals safety and trust. It soothes. It calms our heart stress. So cardiovascular stress is calmed. It activates the vagus nerve, which triggers our compassionate response. So it helps us be more caring to other people, not just receiving care from people, but giving care to people. And it releases oxytocin, which is the love hormone, which, I mean, we know this, like, we know it innately. This is why we tell teenagers, don't touch. Hey, get out of that corner. No more necking. Right? Why do we say that? Necking is an old term, y'all. I'm dating myself. But like, we say things like that because we know that what it can turn into. It turns into like sex and pregnancy and babies and stuff, right? So why is that? Because we thrive off that kind of interaction, not only like sexual stuff, but my point is, physical touch is very powerful in a good way. God designed it to be such a healing modality. And that's what makes it tragic when it's not. Okay, when it becomes something that's dangerous, when it's something that was taken from us instead of given freely, or when it's perverted, and that's normally when it is perverted. It's normally when someone comes to it from, I'm going to manipulate you into letting me touch you. And in this case, where a woman is manipulated, or a young girl is manipulated in her mind, she's sharing freely. This is going to result in something good. It's going to result in something lasting. It's been said that a woman gives sex to get intimacy, and a man gives intimacy to get sex. So it's like almost like a trickery. She's going to give her body hoping that he would want to stay with her, that he would like her, that he would value her, that he'd want to, marry her one day. And he's only going through the motions until he gets to touch her body. And then he's done. It's a consumable good, which is really sad. And that happens quite a bit. So, all right. Okay, so what do? All right, Dallas, we've talked about what's good touch, what good touch is and how good it is for me. You've talked about bad touch. What am I supposed to do? So I'm only going to give you two things, okay? Because there's lots of things to do, but I'm only going to talk about two of those things. Number one is, if you've experienced unsafe touch, and I believe all of us have at some level, be intentional about healing. We are incredibly strong, adaptive creatures. We know how to survive. We're so good at it. So good at it. Okay, so we all know that you're going to survive. This is not life and death in the physical sense, right? So no matter what You know how to get up in the morning. You know how to do your daily stuff, whatever that is. You may do it dry. You may do it frustrated. You may do it disconnected. You may drag yourself through every day. But by golly, you make it to the end of the day. Your head hits that pillow and you start again in the morning. Okay. So this is not about survival, but it is about thriving and healing. Now, why go out of my comfort zone to heal? Why should I pay money and invest to go to an event like Sanctuary? Why should I sign up for coaching? Why should I go to different online or virtual? Like, why should I read books and put effort into this when I could just survive? And yes, you can just survive. However, if you're watching this, either you're live with me or on the replay, you're not just a survival kind of person. That there comes a time, there comes a point where survival is not good enough anymore. It's just not good enough anymore. Here's what we know. Everybody has something in their heart that they want to accomplish here on the earth. They have things in their heart they want to experience here on the earth. And there's a drive to do what it takes to get there, wherever there is for you. And I will tell you that there takes coming out of your comfort zone. And even if your comfort zone is pain, because you're comfortable with pain, you're comfortable with survival, you're comfortable with just barely making it, okay? Just because that's what you're used to does not mean that's what has to be the rest of your life. And it's a choice. No one can make it for you. Nobody can make it for you. No one's going to force you to grow. Nobody's going to force you to heal, right? We can't if we tried. And trust me, you've tried. You tried to heal that man, now didn't you? I know you did. I know we all do it. I know you tried. You can't do it for him and nobody can do it for you. You have to decide if your future is worth it. You have to decide if your dreams and your hopes are worth it. You have to decide if a better life is worth what it's going to take to get there. And so, healing from the bad touch is number one. And filling your life with good touch is number two. Beautiful thing is, God has blessed us, and there are people who love all of us. There's people who love us, and there's people who would give us safe touch if we asked for it. I tell my little ones, I have 2 daughters, and I call them little ones and babies, but they're big girls. They're almost as tall as me. They're like 10 and 11. I had to think about it. And like really, like almost right here. And I have one who's a snuggle bunny. And she used to come and bombard me with hug, like just, and I like hugs, but it can be like a lot. So, so I tell her, I said, listen, you want a hug? I need you to ask for it. And if you see mommy's talking to somebody or mommy's, busy or something, I need you to like stop and ask. Okay. Don't just bum rush mommy. It's a lot. And so she does. Mommy, can I have a hug? And she'll be scared sometimes. Well, what if you say no? If I say no, it's just not right now. You'll get a hug later. I'm saying that to say, don't be afraid to ask for affection. Hey, can I have a hug? I really could use a hug right now. Hey, can I just put my hand on your shoulder? It may feel awkward to say those things out loud, but if somebody loves you, they're going to be like, yeah, you okay? Want to talk about it? No, I don't want to talk. I just need to put my hand here, please. That's okay. And you put here, I had to make the choice to thrive instead of just surviving. When I addressed it, I started to heal. I couldn't do it alone. Absolutely, Monique. Nobody does it alone. Nobody does it alone. And that's the God honest truth. Learning to seek this out, very good. No one can do it alone. We're not designed for that. We're designed for interdependence. And the beautiful thing is, God provides. He provides those opportunities. So, number one, heal from the unsafe touch that you've experienced, and intentionally put effort and money and time behind it, the same way you do survival. And number two, fill up on that good touch. So Ha! I'm doing my dance now because there's an opportunity to do just that. I get so excited, y'all. I get excited and I do dances. Okay, so coming up this Saturday. Okay. There's actually several events. So this is called A Day of Healing, Safe Touch, and it's a movement. The movement was originated by my best friend Malikia Courtney, also known as Coach MK. She won a beauty pageant, and this was part of her advocacy. We've come together to do several events surrounding people healing from domestic violence. We partner in the sanctuary events as well. And now Safe Touch has been something in my heart. It's been in my heart for quite some time. Like I shared with you earlier, touch was my love language. I know that aching, dry, desperation, and just feeling so overlooked and unseen and unloved because no one would touch me. I know that feeling, and I didn't know quite how I was going to help people with that, but I knew I wanted to, and I knew I wanted it to be a more open of a setting than some of the high-end sanctuary events. And so when she came to me with this idea, A Day of Healing, Safe Touch, I was like, yes, let's do it. Yes, let's do it. I'll do it. I was very excited. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Monique. That's really, really sweet. I was very, very excited. And then I went to this organization that I have volunteered with and have labored with over the years. And I said, hey, this has been in my heart. I really want to offer it to this community, and let's do it. And the leader of that organization was like, no, I won't partner with you because we don't agree on certain viewpoints. And it was like, you're not healed enough. This is that person speaking to me. You're not healed enough, and you're gonna harm the people because you don't believe the things I believe, essentially. And the stuff that he was talking about was like, women can't lead because they're too emotional, and God chose men, and la 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 la. Like, okay, if healing looks like that, no thank you. And all right. So I'm thankful for that no, because it turned into, for real, Stacy. Oh my gosh. Yes. And to be, full transparency, there's a bunch of context I'm not able to share. It's just a long story and gets us off track. But he was hurt, which is why he was saying the things he was saying, but he believed them, right? Like, he believed those things, and he believes that I was not qualified based on my disagreement with him. But here's what I know, guys. Here's what I know. I know what God does. Like, I've seen what God does over these past sanctuaries and these different events. Like, you can't tell me. You can't tell me what God's going to. I didn't see what God's going to do. So I am like so excited, okay, for this coming up. This Saturday, I'm going to share my screen because since the event hasn't happened, I haven't been able to share it. Like, normally I'd share a video with you. We haven't done it yet, so I can't share that with you. But you can check out, and let me make sure I'm doing this correctly. Okay, there it is. You can go to thereboundcoach.com/events. That is thereboundcoach.com/events. It's called A Day of Healing, Safe Touch, happening this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern over at Shiloh Farms, which is a beautiful property in Odessa. This is a picture of the property, just a tiny little slice. God's presence rests in this property. It's full of peace. It's full of beauty. And I am so excited for what God is about to do. Like, Not even kidding you. Okay, so, and this event is absolutely free. I wanted to just make it available to anyone who's able to come out. So whether or not you've experienced sexual abuse, people have asked me, well, what if that's not my issue? If you have a pull in your heart to be here, be here. It's free. And you can register at thereboundcoach.com/events. This is the webpage, and you just click right here, free registration. That helps me know how many people to feed. Oh, and there's lunch. I always feed the people. So please come out. If you are not in the Tampa Bay area, I said stop sharing, so I'm still back. Okay, great. If you are, no, my gosh, it's so beautiful. Monique, it's so beautiful. You've got to come to Tampa. It's so beautiful. But if you're not in the Tampa Bay area, okay, there's actually events going on all across the country, which is so exciting. There's one on the same day. We're all activating on the same day, which is why it's a movement. So Chicago, Illinois, Tampa, Florida, Los Angeles, Dayton, Ohio, someplace in Ohio. And I believe there's 5, and I just named 4. Anyway, I've posted about it on facebook.com/the Rebound Coach. You can check out my post there. List all the cities. So there's like 5 cities across the country, and there's an online version that is 24 hours. So starting midnight on Saturday morning all the way through midnight going into Sunday, there's someone holding the space open on Clubhouse, which is just powerful. They're set to 2 people that are facilitating healing conversations. They're willing to listen to you. I mean, come be seen. Come get love. Come get love, yo. And it's open. So my event is a women's event, but different events around the country, co-ed, some are paid, some are free. The virtual space is free and it's open to anyone. So you can hop onto that. If you were on Clubhouse, you just look up the Club Sanctuary XP. And it said the rest of the words say Master Key Mindset, but it's spelled backwards. I didn't make that. Yeah. So if you're on Clubhouse, that's where the online space is. Sanctuary XP is the name of the club. So you can find that there and plug in. Full 24 hours of love. It's exciting to be part of something like that. It really, really is. When folks say be the change, like that's what's happening over here. So I am just so thrilled. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for Monique and Stacy for your comments. It really, 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 really makes the difference for me personally. Thank you. If you're watching the replay, please put in the comments that you are here on the replay. I'd love to hear your story as well. My inbox is always open. Please join me this Saturday, if at all possible, at a Day of Healing Safe Touch over here in Tampa Bay. You can find out more about that at thereboundcoach.com/events, or you can just go to the regular website, thereboundcoach.com. All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate spending time with you. And until next time, folks, choose life.